Kingsburg is a game for 2 to 5 players, which takes about 60 to 90 minutes to play. There are 5 rounds, or years, divided up into seasons. For 3 seasons, players produce by rolling dice and taking turns allotting their dice to characters who give resources or favors. Then the players are allowed to build with their resources. Buildings give victory points and different types of bonuses. In the winter, an invading army attacks, and players must have hired enough soldiers and built enough defenses over the year to protect them or face losses. After 5 rounds, the player with the most victory points is the winner. Stone Age is a game for 2 to 4 players, which takes about 60 minutes to play. As leaders of a clan of cavemen, players send out their workers each round to gather resources, make tools, breed, or plant crops. They can also score points by building huts or taking valuable endgame scoring cards. Each worker represents a dice, which, when rolled, the value of the dice determines the number of resources collected. After each round, players must feed their people. The game ends when the card deck or one stack of hut tiles is depleted, and the player with the most victory points is the winner.
These are both dice rolling games.
Yeah, they're both sort of worker placement, right? Except in this one, the dice are the workers that you place, and in this one, you roll dice and place them. In this one, you place workers and roll dice. So it's a neat comparison. I think.
They both have kind of a gambling element.
And in both of them, the higher you roll, the better you do generally, which is a little frustrating at times.
But they both kind of try and even it out a bit.
They do try to.
Stone Age has the tools.
Yeah.
And Kingsburg has
the +2 markers. I've never really compared, but I think if you looked at what you got for an 18, I think it's still better than what you would get for, say, a 4, a 5, or a 4, a 6, and an 8. Say. Right? Something that adds
I think
up
it's about the same. You're just competing more.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I've never actually compared it.
But the high rolls will give you stuff like...
Give you extra stuff.
Looking at the
monsters,
invading army card and soldiers.
Yeah. And in Stone Age, the higher you roll, the more goods you get. And the more goods you get, the more cards you can, the more advanced.
In Stone Age, the workers represent a dice.
Yeah.
That's where the fun comes in.
Yeah. But that can be huge. I mean, if, 1 to 6, and yes, you still divide whatever number you roll. So if you roll an 11 or if you roll a 6, it's the same as far as gold is concerned. So that sort of helps to mitigate it. But I mean, if you're doing the collecting wood to buy a bunch of civilization advancement cards, right? You're using wood as your cheap one to just.
Yeah.
I mean, the higher you roll, the better you're going to do.
Over the course of the game, I think it
should
levels
average
out.
It should, yes. Same as with Kingsburg. I mean, that's the good thing about the law of averages, right? Is that it should average out.
Yeah, it's a bit different with Kingsburg though, because you're trying to build buildings every time. And
that's true. And prepare for
and
prepare for the monsters that are coming.
So if you roll poorly early on, then it can really have a big effect on.
Yeah.
Whereas Stone Age, you're probably just you're just going for points. If you have a bad round, it doesn't really matter because the next one might be better.
I've also seen people take quite a hit in this when at least 2 people roll low and then somebody else rolls relatively high. Like say they roll 13, right? A 6, a 5, and a 1. Or a 2, I mean whatever, but they roll where they have 1 low die and they take one of the low ones as their first move, which pretty much stops the other people from grabbing those low ones. And yeah, I've seen people when they roll low not be able to put out at least one of their dice, which can be really frustrating.
But with Stone Age, I found one of the things that balances it out is you go for these cards which have an end scoring bonus.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Kingsburg, you know who's going to win, especially by the last round. You're pretty sure who's going to win because there's no real catch-up thing. But Stone Age has a hidden scoring at the end, which...
Yeah, which can be...
even if you rolled terribly, you can still be collecting the right cards.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
catch
the
up.
end scoring can be as much or more as the scoring during the game.
Yeah, and Kingsburg, it's pretty anticlimactic.
Well, there's
you know,
there's the bonus if you have the most. I mean, at the end of every round, right? If you commit the most soldiers, the most powerful soldiers.
tiny bonus.
Yeah, it's one victory. Yeah, that's I mean.
If someone is
tiny
8 or so points ahead, I mean,
chances are they're
not going to lose
Yeah.
unless they screw up massively and
right.
don't have enough soldiers.
And the monster destroys some of the buildings.
Yeah,
which
that's
can,
the only way.
Yeah.
I've seen it happen, but that's the only way
Yeah.
that the runaway
Yeah, that's pretty unusual.
can lose. But as far as fun, though, Stone Age is one of those games where people play and they're laughing and having fun. They don't care if they're winning or losing. And
Right.
Kingsburg, I've seen people who having a lousy game rolling and
Just not having
just
any
hate
fun.
it. Yeah. And it seems to have, some people seem to really have bad analysis paralysis with it.
With Kingsburg.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think
Just doing math in their head and deciding where to put them.
well, I think also too because you have to be prepared for the invasion at the end of every turn. There's this there's this tension that is constantly there. Like, okay, I want to build this building, I want to do this, but I have to make sure I have enough to defend against the monsters. And that kind of stress, I think, will actually. Whereas Stone Age has nothing like that, other than feeding your people, right? And that's easy to get because anybody can put as many people as they want.
It's a
So
pretty
there's-
stiff penalty, though, if you don't.
Yeah, it's minus 10 points, but it's unless you choose not to feed your people, you're probably not going to have it happen by accident. Whereas in this, it's possible that you can gamble.
You lose your best building.
Yeah,
And
just
you lose
hammers.
everything you got because of the building.
Yeah.
Which is no fun.
I do like it though.
I like it too. It's just that the last round where you pretty much know
Pretty
who's
much
going
know
to
who's
win.
going to win anyway. Right.
But they both scale up pretty good with number of players.
Mm-hmm. And they're both good for people that haven't
Yeah,
played a
they're
lot of
both
games.
good gateway games.
Yeah.
That's what I like about them too. Is people who haven't played many games can play and they can actually compete.
Yeah. No, that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, both of them, they do help if you are familiar with them. But yeah, even if you've never played before, it doesn't take long to catch it, you figure it out. I think Stone Age is more forgiving for that, actually. Because in this, if you're not really sure what you're doing, you can take a hit the first year. Whereas in Stone Age, all this you're going to do really is starve your people and lose 10 points. Which in a game that scores well over 100, that's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, they're both funner with more people because of the worker placement thing. But
Mhm.
they seem to do okay with less people. Like they've got some rules tweaked. Kingsburg has a phantom player. And,
For 2 players.
If you play with 2, yeah.
2, yeah.
And Stone Age, you're limited to where you can put things.
But Stone Age is 2 to 4, right? Kingsbury is 2 to 5?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're both pretty quick. Like hour and a half.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're both very similar in length.
Kingsburg has a set number of rounds.
Yeah. Yeah, and Stone Age, you can actually, if you want, you can...
Hasten to the ending.
Yeah.
Yeah, Stone Age is pretty limited in strategy.
Right. It's okay, though.
It's a fun game. It's probably one of my favorite games.
Yeah. And it's nice every once in a while to play something that isn't going to make your brain feel like it's melting. Like it's straightforward enough that once you sort of get the idea of how a round progresses, you gather resources, buy your cards or huts, and then feed your people, and on it goes. Yeah, once you get that basic idea down, then you can have fun just trying different things. But yes, nothing too complicated.
Yeah. Well, Kingsburg, I've played it with people where I've played a 3-hour game with people.
Really?
Yeah. Just
Not knowing where to put their dice?
thinking. You could go off for 10 minutes and their turn would still be their turn.
That's not so good.
No, and everyone was furious.
Mm.
And it's just a simple worker placement.
Yeah, I find that was weird because there's not that many choices, and you kind of know. Okay, well, you sort of just decided beforehand what building you want to build, or at least a couple of where you want to go. Yeah, it's not that. I'm surprised that happens with this game.
A couple of times, yeah.
that's too bad.
Because it's pretty fast. Because it's each round, yeah, you just it's already
Yeah, you have a finite number
segmented
of,
into seasons. So
Yeah. Yeah, you've got
pretty
3
fast.
chances to build stuff and to gather an army, and then you fight.
Yeah.
I guess the same thing could happen with Stone Age, though, right? You could just sit there and agonize over, oh, do I put them in the wood or do I put them in the
No,
stone?
I don't think so. Because there's like 3 or 4 optimal places that everyone goes for right away.
Right, but once those are filled,
Once they're done, then it's just
then
like,
it could be, oh my god, what am I going to do?
But I mean, you got a bunch of resources.
Yeah, no, I don't really
unless there's
see...
something. I don't think people think that far ahead because it's like
Right,
you got the huts.
right.
You're gonna take what you can. You're not gonna plan. I'm gonna get this and take the hut. You're gonna get a bunch of resources. And say, oh, I can get this hut now. I think that's the way most people.
Well,
plan.
true, I guess that's a good point, that there is a little more forward planning in Kingsburg. Like you generally, you want to, you decide, you can either go for, I mean, there's no way you're going to get all the buildings built, no matter what. There's absolutely no way to do that. So you've got to pick. You can either go for all of the cheap ones, or you can pick a couple of rows and try to finish them off, and even which rows you pick are different strategies so there's definitely more long-term thinking.
Yeah, especially since there's more of a gambling element in Stone Age. You're just gonna get resources and then decide.
Yeah, and well, there's more randomness too as to which civilization cards are going to come up and which huts are going to be available for purchase too.
Yeah, in Kingsburg, I think most people go for the defense.
Start off with the building.
defense building, so they don't have to worry so much about that.
Right.
Or the odd person will just try and get a line of buildings because you get more victory points. For
Yeah,
that.
especially the top row, which
Better
gives you
ones,
nothing other than victory
Yeah,
points.
yeah.
But
But then it's more of a gamble too, because then if you can't defend yourself, you lose the building.
you end up losing the building. Yeah.
Yeah. But I really like the theme for Stone Age.
Really?
Don't you? You really feel like you're the head of
I surprisingly not. I mean, neither of them. The theme on both of them seems pretty pasted on.
No way. I mean, Stone Age, you're the head of a clan, you send them out to do work, and then they come back and you feed them and use their stuff to build things. It's like perfectly thematic.
Right.
Whereas,
Yeah, and the fact you can even...
plus it's not an old European theme, which is always
Which,
nice.
yeah, and that's not trading in the Mediterranean. Well, it may be trading in the Mediterranean. We don't know where it's set. It's trading it somewhere in the world, right? Because if you don't have enough food, you can give away resources instead of food.
But I mean,
And that was supposed to represent
where
trading.
it's at doesn't really matter. It's
No.
when.
Yeah.
Whereas Kingsburg is a pretty standard theme. It does have a fantasy element, though. If it wasn't for those monsters coming at the end of each year, it would be a totally...
Yeah, it wouldn't need to
Standard
be.
old
Yeah,
European.
in fact, the first time I played, it wasn't until the monsters attacked. I thought it was just an army that was going to be invading. And then they flipped it over and it was zombies. Like, oh! Or goblins or whatever it was. Like, oh, this is a fantasy theme. I didn't even know.
So which one do you like better?
I like Stone Age better. But I do like Kingsburg. And it's funny, though, because I find it easier to get people to play Kingsburg, oddly enough. It could just be the group that I play with, though. More into the fantasy theme.
I like Stone Age quite a bit more. Kingsburg, yeah, that last round.
You just find it too anticlimactic.
Yeah. It's easier to get burnt out on, because I think there's less strategy than Kingsburg.
Right.
But
Yeah, but like we said, both games are really pretty light in the strategy.
and I really like hidden scoring at the end.
Right.
It gets the adrenaline flowing.
Especially if you think you've won, but you're not sure, and you're kind of like, oh, okay, and you're watching everybody else count up their points.
Yeah, like, I don't know if it's in the rules or not, but I like to have, whoever is in last place count first.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So then they're like...
Then they
ahead,
boost up, they jump into lead, right.
Then second last.
Right. No, that's a good idea.
It's a nail biter, yeah.
Yeah.
And I do feel like the leader of a clan.
You can feel the dirt between your toes?
No, because I'm the boss.
Oh, right,
You're
of
sending
course.
them out to work.
Yes.